Recording started. Yeah. Okay, so let's start with covering the gap, what happened in the project before. So we published two articles together with Desai Labs before Eric left the project, because he had left in August, as I remember. And what was done by me, I tried to deploy and to maintain the own node of Desai Labs nodes and the codecs. And I was not successful in it. So I discovered that components of the project, especially the ceramic blockchain, is extremely difficult to maintain. So to deploy out of a blue and out of the box without Docker, which was my actual purpose, because I was trying to nominate the project as the Debian project, Debian compatible project. And I also had an experience with this because I'm maintaining the Debian repository for IPFS Kubo, which is one of the underlying technologies of GSI nodes. But I was not successful in this. And also, so I have reported it in the discussion, for which the link is now on the chat. And also, let's say, together with Elettra, with my employer, and Eric, we tried to use the material obtained from potential deployment of DPID developed by Desai Labs as two points: the remote logging facility for the industrial automation, which was somehow plausible, but it requires additional devices, not even the technologies, but the devices. And second, as an identification solution for artworks, which was this part of the project somehow failed because it was again too difficult to maintain from the point of view of the ordinary art reseller or the art dealer. So that was a problem. And due to this, after also Eric left, and it was a bit, let's say, the calm period within the project, and not so intense discussions. We had them, and you can see it in the old agenda, for which the link is at the beginning of a new agenda. So I returned to the previous version of the spec, which was introduced in October 2023 during the RDA conference, and tried to determine which part of, let's say, part of success we have missed. So at the first part, as also depicted in the discussion, the first part was the maintenance, because yeah, now it is completely snapped to the side of Desai Labs, and they are seeming successful doing this. So they are trying to identify the books and to somehow compete with DOI. And the second part was the blockchain, because actually we are now in terms of Desai Labs, we are relying to the Ethereum blockchain. So it was in May, when I was trying to deploy the system as an artwork identification software. It was a huge problem with transaction cost. So to me, it's let's say, in my strong opinion, it was okay. Hi, Sergio.
Hi, sorry for the delay.
Yeah, I'm telling now to Tibor about what happened in the project since he didn't participate in the meetings.
Okay.
So the transaction cost was, let's say, since that it was considered unacceptable because once it appears in the scheme, then you are, let's say, for the institutions which are out of the, let's say, the mainstream blockchain networks, then you are out of the transaction. And the model actually may be transformed in the model which is pretty similar to the DOI. Buon appetito, Sergio.
Sorry. Here is noontime. Sorry.
No, nothing special. So, and due to this, from my side, I started to for searching a solution to implement instead of storing all of the operations and make ledgering only in the blockchain, to have a messaging service which can transpose the messages between the nodes in a decentralized system in the same way, using my own experience in the decentralized system programming, in the same way with BitTorrent. So now the key suggestion that is done in our concepts and definitions document, I will again drop a link on the chat, is to use a distributed hash table to obtain the messaging solution between the nodes. And also during doing all this, we prepared some texts. For example, the one text was for RDA blog, which is actually not reliable blog platform. So we are still in a research about the more or less reliable blog platform. And it was an intense discussion about the working group and let's say the future and especially the legalization of a project. Because now we are in the search the research about the umbrella organization, and it could still be possible to collaborate and to have somehow let's say maybe not totally formal, but somehow a legal status. Because then we could establish ourselves as a team and have some rights while we are not snapped to the single organization. Yeah, it was, we tried actually with Desai Labs and they made a favor, or it was a favor for actually for me, but for every one of us, because they paid my presentation on the conference in Venice. But the collaboration for me as a Russian citizen, from the formal point of view, contains a lot of difficulties. So I don't know if it is possible to establish the same model again. I guess no. So yes, so this is a brief overview what happened in the project, and then it is better to see the agenda because I didn't remember everything.
Thank you, Andre, for the short recap. It was very useful.
Yes, so thanks to you for listening, and I can suggest to proceed with the agenda, right? Yeah. At first, let's agree about the next meetings because Benke said that he's not able to participate on Wednesdays. And I don't know about Francis. We will ask him when he will return from Mongolia, because now in Mongolia there is a midnight. And so we can move. I don't know if it is feasible to move back to Tuesdays or we could move to Mondays. What's your availability?
For me, Tuesdays I think it works better, but I'm open to My main thing is to maintain the time schedule
Well, it
because
seems.
it's my lunch break. I can do it in my lunch break.
Okay, okay. So the thing is that this time in which we till now always have a meeting, it always works for me because it's 5 p.m. in Italy, and I am in. I can maintain it. So we could count on all the days except Thursdays
And
from my
Wednesdays
side.
Wednesday for Benke is the pronunciation.
Benker just said that he's not available because he's teaching that time.
Yes, so he cannot on Wednesday.
Yeah,
So
he
we can.
cannot on Wednesdays. Jonas?
Yeah, for me, anything but Thursday, and the time slot.
Okay. Okay, so also like me,
Yes.
all the days except Thursdays. Okay, Tibor?
The same here. Thursday would be very bad. This is our maintenance window, Thursday afternoon. And what I can tell you, I will be intensively traveling in the next weeks. So I will probably not able to join in at the next
Oh,
meeting.
well, it's always okay and acceptable. So all the days. Sergio, then it's now you and Francis actually as the remaining active participants. So which you prefer Tuesdays, right?
Yeah, any day is okay. The time slot. So far, the time slot is maintained. I can any day.
Okay, so for the time slot, the time like today is feasible for everyone, I guess. Okay, then we may choose. Benko is quite active participant, so maybe we would make a favor for him and switch to Mondays or Tuesdays. Which do you prefer? Mondays or Tuesdays? Because I have no difference here.
Me neither.
Tibor?
I see that from time to time, Mondays would have a collision with the FDO forum meetings. But also the FDO forum is reorganizing the working groups, so probably they will change also the time slot. And I would suggest that take the more active collaborators' preferences in account.
Yeah,
And I try to join.
because now only a few people are always participating. So okay, so
let's go back to Tuesday.
yeah, let's go back to Tuesdays as for almost everyone is available. I will also write now to Benke because he seems online. Okay, I hope so. So okay, let's see that we have agreed on it. Okay, I will write it down later. The second point in our agenda is, let's say, the blockchain discussion. Now, I can say that whatever I wrote in the letter to Philip on our mailing list, it is still the same. My opinion is still the same. So we can. From my point, there is nothing to say more. Do you have anything to say?
No, I think maybe we can write it down. But we have been saying this in the last two meetings, and I
Yeah.
think everybody at this time of the year is very busy. But maybe you can open a collaborative document, maybe not open for everybody, but to those who commit to it.
Well,
And
it's yeah, there is a discussion on GitHub, so it's already open. We can use it.
but I mean to produce
That is the solution.
paper like
Okay, okay, I understand.
maybe with this I think this also can be framed in the private owned digital public goods phenomena that is very much in the open now. There's these directories of digital public goods, but if you look deeper, they are private owned, and there's some kind of open washing phenomena going on that maybe we could use this to demonstrate that it may not have a cost, but it doesn't have a public governance. So
yeah,
maybe to write it down and make some noise. It will be to make noise, of course. People may not go fund us. But
yeah, I can understand. I can understand your opinion. Could you open this document?
Yeah, well, I can create it and share to those who want to collaborate. There's a call for documents for research libraries that it came out today from the International Federation of Library Associations. I can maybe frame it in that call for proposals and write it down, and those who want to collaborate, they're welcome. You're welcome. But it will be to make noise, I think this wishy-washy thing, we hope someone fund us, it will not lead us anywhere. So let's be bold and open.
Yeah, it seems a good idea. I think also, Tibor, can you say something, or can you support this?
Yes. So there are different levels how this could be addressed, and probably yeah, if we have time later, we can go into the details. Let's continue with the agenda, I would suggest.
Okay, but in the agenda there are not so many points right now, and yeah, it's the next points probably could be quite easy. So we can just jump to the next point, finish with the agenda, and then dedicate a bit of time. Okay, to me it seems okay. Okay, perfect. So okay, let's now. Please view the link that I dropped on the chat. And these are the conditions to participate in CoARA projects. The call should be opened in January, if I remember well. And
the page says end of December, which is basically in 2 weeks. So we will see.
So let's say we could think about if there is a possibility to write a proposal. The thing is, once the call is open, I don't know if it is longer.
But it does have to have a university, but I understood, or I understood it wrong. Does it have to have a university backing?
In the background.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe I read it wrong, but
yeah, it seems so to me. It seems that it should be anyhow an organization. but the educational organization, it doesn't seem mandatory.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Tibor. Yeah, institutional pilot project, teaming projects, and institutional change projects. So what do you think about which kind of project we could propose once we have some organization supporting us?
I do not clearly understand the differences and the requirements for the types. I'm just trying to distance read the text in parallel.
Yeah, I can understand.
Are you thinking about the upcoming second call for cascade funding in December?
I understood that was the idea, yes.
Yeah.
So how do we know what that call is going to be about?
Sorry, but I didn't hear you well. So what we could address?
The upcoming second call.
Yes.
Any more information? It just say that alongside the expected project launches, stay tuned for upcoming second call for cascade funding in December.
Yeah. Well, the only information we have is from Francis saying that there would be a call.
Yeah. So we really don't know.
Actually, yes. We don't know, and the only thing we could do here is just a consideration.
Okay, so we expect it to be like the same selection process as
Well,
these 25 projects.
yes. About this, I'm pretty sure. So about the other things, I just have no clue because working in the industry, I cannot access all of the information from the academia and from the libraries, of course, too. Sergio, could you please tell just briefly what will be the librarians exchange project?
Yeah, it's a paper call for paper proposal. Let me find the mail. It's for academic and research libraries.
Yeah.
And
If you can share your screen, it would be excellent.
yeah, let me find first. Find it. Oh, here it is. It's for a conference. The research support in the age of AI. This is the goal.
So it's quite hyped topics, and
Yeah.
yes, for making noise, it should be perfect.
Every conference now has a AI on it, at least as a context. But the persistent identifier is also
It's a subject.
yeah.
Yeah, so it could be easily transposed as a topic. Everything
And,
open.
yeah, I'm thinking that under this, we can problematize this open washing and the private-owned digital public goods. Because if you see for example, DOI, it's listed as a digital public good. And
Yes.
for me, it's not public. If I cannot be, if you have to pay, so let's redefine what is a digital public good.
Yeah, and also there is a problem which could be easily connected to this is the let's so-called open source
Yep.
AI models.
They ask for very little to be called open source AI models, where you don't have to open even half of it.
Yes, it's exactly the same problem. So yeah,
So
yeah. Sorry, please.
no, I think maybe it's not so technical, but to start as a working group, make some noise. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can
Worth a
agree with
shot anyway.
this. I can agree with this, despite I will not have too much time to write it down and to write a lot of text because since till now and also since now I will be pretty busy until the let's say 2nd or 3rd of December. Yes, until 2nd of December. Yeah, so. Yeah, but at least if there is a possibility to make this noise, we could try.
The abstract submission deadline is 10th of December.
Yeah,
so this not a lot of time, but sometimes it's there.
Is it just the abstract which is to be submitted?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we can achieve just the abstract. Then the conference is 15th and 16th of May next year.
Yeah, and please recall the place.
Berlin. So it's close to you all.
Yeah, but likely I will not have permission to travel outside Italy.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I should renew my permit of stay every year, and there is also a problem that until I will not have the valid one, I'm not eligible to leave Italy, and this is always a problem. So if it is possible to participate remotely, then I can do. Then it's not a problem.
We can see once the problem is there who presents it.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. Jonas, my question to you, will you be able to participate in this paper and in this abstract?
I think so.
Okay, because yeah, it will be really very best.
Yes, I agree. It would be fun to be a part of it. So I'm aiming for it.
Great.
And I don't see anything that would stop me right now.
Okay.
Although I do have some sort of weird flu at the moment, so I don't feel my best. I don't think it would kill me.
Okay. Then we have just
some kind
good
of
opportunity.
Swedish humor, is that, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Russian is quite similar.
Okay. It's the cold that makes that type of humor.
Yeah.
The cold weather.
Yeah, also this. Okay, so well, now we have here, we are still waiting for a second call. Okay, so now we have probably completed this point of the agenda. And let's go for it's not about the progress discussion, it's, let's say, about the further steps on the concepts and definitions. Did you manage to have a look, Sergio, Jonas?
Yeah, briefly, but it was last week, so I don't think I remember it all.
Yeah, I discussed it with Diego,
Yeah.
and he was named head of the research institute in the philosophy faculty, and where is the library science being taught here in the University of Buenos Aires. So he's putting a working group, a research group on the persistent identifier for the Global South with this distributed hash table concept in being part of it.
Well, it's for us, it should be great.
Yeah, so there will be some, mostly they have to belong to that university. It's not my case. So I will be just as a external consultant for that research project. And it was also in the CoARA meeting. It was last week. I was contacted by a researcher from Chile that also is interested. So I'm like collecting interest in the groups, but we didn't advance so much in the technical aspect.
Well, it's understandable. But do you know if someone of them is aware about the blockchain issues?
I know we are waiting for the Brazilian paper that it was funded. It's a project funded by the Latin America Research Alliance, something like that. Yeah, I don't know the proper name, and I don't know the translation of the proper name. So this is a Brazilian researcher who wanted to create this dark that's is a decentralized ARC system. A persistent identifier based in ARC with the blockchain as a decentralizing point. I have some details, but I will not disclose because this will be published, and we are waiting for his findings in order to move the discussion forward in Latin America with in regards to that. But we have a clear picture similar to what the conclusions we arrived from here, from this working group.
Yeah, it's at least it will clarify some points.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to make a simple recall for Tibor, which was I forgot about it while describing the events in the project. What I have discovered from the, let's say, open market on which I was worked with art resellers and the scientists, and which is not already implemented in DSI nodes, is a prefix concept. Because what people really want to have is a prefix owned, despite it is trusted or not, owned by them. So once you have a, let's say, this is why trying to define how the system should work, I was so there to write, as you have an author identifier, then you will have a prefix.
Yeah, I think when you mention prefix, this has a technical, an organizational, and probably a social point of view. And all these point of view are probably equally important when it comes to concepts and implementations. And having said this, I don't know how to name it properly, but traditional PID concepts all have a kind of namespaces for a scene for different purposes, because this is the level where different policies can be defined. This is the level where the technical implementation can say something specific for those kind of namespaces. And this is where social contracts can be made, how to serve that kind of level of the infrastructure, that kind of level of the whole architecture. And probably that's why everybody is aware of namespaces or prefix. Probably everybody pushes these things. And then I checked the document right before the meeting. I don't know whether I missed these points or whether it is whether it has a different terminology in the actual status, or how namespaces or how prefixes are discussed until now. Was there any discussion about namespaces, about the management of namespaces, about the assignment of namespaces? Is it a new topic?
Well, for this DPID, actually there is no namespace concept. So it's versioned, but let's say whatever I could suppose there to have is hidden namespaces, like it is done in Bespoke and in ORCID. So it's let's say, but it's not a. To be honest, I cannot see that it is approach completely compliant to FAIR. Because once you are hiding your namespace, then you're hiding your identity.
For me, it sounds like this is a technical, or this is a concept to help a technical implementation, but the other aspects, the organizational ones and the social ones, are probably not fulfilled with a kind of a hidden namespace. I might be wrong, but this is my first understanding about this.
So yes, I'm now trying to recall it from the DSI website, and it doesn't seem that it has still a namespace. It has just let's say arrow crate and nothing more. Just to recall, I will drop the link on the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah. And now for short time, I will share my screen to let you see how it looks like. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's a bit small, but I can zoom in.
I will do it. So it doesn't seem we would have a prefix. But it contains the list of authors. And just the IPFS identifiers. So the IPFS identifiers doesn't use according to its decentralized nature. They are not used like that. No, it doesn't. So it doesn't have a prefix concept at all. So I think it should be at least discuss it. And once we would have Philip or Chris or Sina on the meeting, we should address it. Because in the Codex library, they actually said that there is something, but I didn't have time to have a detailed look. Yeah. Well, so for now, I think about the prefix concept. That's all. That's all I can say. Tibor, as you are here, may I ask you a question? If you have some information and you can share it, do you have any details about how the prefixes are implemented in Handle? Namespaces are implemented in Handle.
Mm-hmm. So you mean conceptually or technically?
Both.
Both. So let's start with the technical part.
Okay.
Namespaces are so-called prefix handles. They are normal handles, if you like, from the technical point of view. But these handles are under well-known specific namespace. This is the 0.NA naming authority. So every prefix looks like 0.NA slash and the prefix itself. The 0.NA namespace is homed or hosted or served by a specific handle system. This is the global handle registry, which is responsible for prefix handles and for some other very specific handles. These global handle registry services are now since 2015 probably are hosted and jointly administered by the so-called multi-primary administrators under the umbrella of DONA. DONA is the Digital Object Naming Authority. This is the highest level entity in the handle hierarchy. And these MPAs, these multi-primary administrators, are credentialed to make changes in those prefix handles under dedicated subname spaces. I'm not sure whether subname space is the right terminology according to the specs, but basically, if you think about the DOI Foundation, the International DOI Foundation, which is one of the MPAs, they have prefixes like 10 dot something. Everything under 10 dot is maintained by the respective multi-primary administrator. The 21 dot is maintained by the Persistent Identifier Consortium, where I'm associated with. And there are other MPAs with dedicated subname spaces. How these MPAs divide their namespaces into smaller namespaces, it's according to their policies. So they are free to define their policies, and they are free to make the technical implementation how they maintain those 1 or 2 delimiter prefixes, how it's called in the handle word. And basically they decide on everything when it comes to the lower levels. This is what I was mentioning previously, that there are different angles when it comes to organizational, social, and policy and technical thingies. In the handle word, it's a kind of a hierarchy with the top level 0 dot something. This is the entry point, and then when it comes to the 1 delimiter, the delegated prefixes, then it is the business of the multi-primary administrators. In the case of the DOI Foundation, because probably this is the most known one, the DOI Foundation has different members, like DataCite, like others, and they have their own policy, they have their own namespaces, they have their own services, how to administer their handles, their PIDs. So this is the very short story. And what is somehow common in all of the PIDs and all of the handles, that they are resolvable with the same technology. So even if policies are different, even the technical implementations are different, how handles are maintained, they are still resolvable via the handle protocol or via one of the global proxy HTTP proxies available under doi.org or hdl.handle.net. So basically, it doesn't matter which namespace, they are all technically resolvable via the same technology. And probably a last note on this. Previously, there were 3 RFCs, which are somehow defined the handle word. One of them was about the namespaces, how they should be built up. And nowadays, this is migrated into the digital object architecture descriptions and specifications, and into the identity resolution protocol specifications. So this is the short story behind the handles and the namespaces.
Okay, thank you very much. And it could be really extremely useful because here in the context of this work, what was already said that what we strive to provide is just the software and not the policy, right?
Mhm.
So the only policy that should be applied is that once you use the policy, once you use the software, then it's your responsibility to define a policy.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the only thing that we should define as the people who are working on the PID is the rules and actually the ruling for the agents. And let's say the software, because the software is also the subject for being identified.
Let me digest this first, what you were saying.
Yeah, because it's already was written in these concepts and definitions. And now it leads us to the last point of our agenda for today. It's about the agents, because the definition we have. So now I was trying to define the rules, but now I just don't have enough time to proceed with this work. So the formal grammar we have, more or less, the definition we have, the internal representation and the rules for agents we don't have. So if you are able to help defining this, it would be a great help. Anyone, for anyone.
So what is a realm in this context?
Well, because it is written, so it may define the actually the resolution method. It was started from this, but it's a bit wider concept. Because, for example, as it was many times addressed by Francis and Sergio also addressed this, it's about identifying, for example, some entity or some bunch of metadata using the different categorization principles. So it's directly borrowed as it is written in the document from the POSIX standard. So, for example, something may be identified as an object identified or minted by an agent, or the agent could be identified as the same bunch of metadata by ORCIDE or by something else, and these PIDs should be independently resolvable. But anyhow, they should point to the same metadata, because probably the only digital object that we could really introduce as the persistent is metadata. So let's say the current version of a given metadata will have an persistent internal representation, despite we will have a IPFS, IRO, or something like. But it should be accessible from some kind of, for example, identification by ID, by ORCID, or something like.
Or ROR.
Yes,
Or
yes. There should
Yeah.
not be, there should not be any limitations.
The idea behind it was that the decentralized model of the persistent identifier do not weaken the middle institutions like public universities in the global south that are supporting open science research. So a way to strengthen them was to recognize the belonging in some kind of in it was then it became the realm, you know, the raw registry of that institution should be always clear, and the belonging of that knowledge production should be there. That's the idea, no?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, exactly this. And due to this, we actually have, let's say, have a need to be able to connect some messaging system, because it's also obvious that instead of storing the transaction and whole set of the transactions possible in the system in the blockchain, it is better to store a metadata and to store the states, because it reduces the load inside the whole system.
But my question, and here maybe is what the Tibor was saying before.
Yeah.
For that messaging, then you have to have policies.
Sorry, what we should have policies?
Yeah, for that messaging system to work. So some policies should be there.
Yes, but these messages should be actually let's say, not even a protocol. Well, I'm somehow familiar with the POSIX programming, so I may borrow directly from that. It should be not a standard, not even a protocol, but something like, let's say, the mailbox text. So it's a short texts, which are limited in the time to live, and limited also in the amount of messages that could be sent by the single node in some time. And the only principle, as I see, maybe I'm just ignorant, and there are some other principles, but I can see only one principle how to implement this is it is just let's say everyone is responsible. So only one node can send the message by its own belonging, but everyone who sees that this message is not compliant to the policies is responsible to report it. So there's at least it could be a concept that would eliminate the, let's say, visibly untrusted messages. And somehow the only thing that can break this concept inside a network is when, let's say, the significant part of the network nodes are compromised. Significant is about 60% or more, because otherwise it's just an announcement, and then it could be let's say the public trust conflict, which could be resolved by sending the message again.
That would also mean that fixing a mistake would be kind of hard.
Yes, but well, let's say as for every PID system fixing a mistake, almost everyone it means creating a new version.
That is true.
Yeah. So here we have only, let's say, only one opportunity to implement, which is not quite known right now, is Git-like. Because in version control systems like Git, it's already implemented due to the commit message amendment. So we are fixing the metadata and snapping it to, let's say, if it is possible, to the difference between two states of the data.
So if by some random chance two people have chosen the same prefix and then by randomness get the same identifier afterwards, which one would take precedence?
The first one already defined.
Yeah, but
Because
they are in a place where so both of them are deploying this onto the internet at the same, more or less same.
no.
So
It's well, once we are using the distributed hash table, it is not possible to have this. Once you have your agent identity, then the distributed hash table will report if you would have the same.
even if that one is just a couple of seconds old.
Yes, because the announcement is continuous. Once you have anyhow the access, the announcement is continuous.
How would that work? That seems like it would take an awful lot of bandwidth.
Let's say once the messages are relatively short, I could say that the bandwidth it's around less than let's say the maximal 1 MB per second for the network like BitTorrent.
Yes, but a
So
BitTorrent, you could still have conflicts within a BitTorrent as well.
yes, but let's say the conflict resolving on BitTorrent, it doesn't have let's say it doesn't make sense because you just will select a different cell in the distributed hash table.
Yes.
Here it depends from let's say.
So that's why I'm asking if this is going to use the same way of resolving that.
It also depends from the way in which we will represent the internal representation of agent identifier.
Yes. Okay. So what it also would mean is that even if two people are sort of spreading news of their new PID across the network, one of them will simply be maybe just a second or a millisecond older, and that would take precedence, and the other one would be pushed to a different cell, and you wouldn't even notice.
Let's say it will not work like this because the cell identifier in the distributed hash table is not the same with internal representation of agent ID. Because
Okay.
because the cell numbers in the distributed hash table are not persistent.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
I'm sorry for the stupid questions. As I said, I feel a bit under the weather today.
No, there
No,
is
it's
nothing special, but let's say for distributed hash table is let's say the transmission infrastructure. So it allows us to announce and to create a connection, the let's say distributed and more or less reliable connection between the nodes,
yeah.
because
So
the nodes are themselves are not anonymous.
no, but I mean, if you have like a billion nodes, so
Uh, where is it? It's around 160 billions of possible nodes
yeah,
in the could be defined even more because it's EED 19225. It's an elliptical curve identifier. And there is a here it's also the question about how to prevent the collision here, because mathematically it depends only from the input data, and it should be with the current number of 1 to billions of PIDs per month. It should be enough to have a random sort, depending from let's
Yeah,
say from the network timers, as it is done for global unique identifiers made by Microsoft.
but they are also, you will have a policy on what to do in case of collision. You
Yes,
have to prevent them, but then you have to establish what to do in case of collision. That's
yeah.
what Jonas, I think, is.
yeah,
And
exactly.
that's a policy also that should be there.
Yes, so it should be inside the spec for the even the messaging and the commands and so on. So just whatever you want to suggest, please write it down in the document. Yeah, and just let's say just to recall, to me now it seems that the only way to implement the collision resolving is to have a precedence for the firstly registered author ID.
Thanks, Tibor. It was very
See
nice
you.
to hear you.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see your message.
Yeah, sorry, I
Thanks.
need to leave now for the
Yeah,
next
thank you very
meeting.
much.
Thank you for the recap. I will follow up in
Okay, and
the
hope
document.
to see you soon in the next meeting.
I can tell you the next meeting I will be traveling, but probably the next one after the next one.
Okay, okay. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah, so the precedence is to first, and the second is to redefinition of already pushed metadata, because once we will use something like IPFS, it will be still presented on the network, and we actually cannot lose it. And it should be actually, I could say the only way that seems to me feasible is to define the special message. So if the node discovers that it's not acceptable to push under this agent ID, then it should just send a notification message, and once it is signed by anyone else, the set of anyone else nodes, then it could be proposed to the network with let's say the same persistent identifier but a different agent ID.
Yeah, that was kind of what I had imagined as well. So that sounds good to me.
Yeah, so it could be established like that. Yes, so for now our agenda is up to the end. And just if you do you have something to discuss more?
I had something, but I don't feel that I have the brain capacity today to talk about it.
Could you please just notice the topic?
No, because I don't remember. It was
Okay.
something I thought of during the last meeting, and we didn't have time, but it's completely gone now.
So if you would be able to write it down, it will be
Yes,
very,
if it
very
comes
good.
back to me, I will, for sure, I will do it either in the documents or in Mattermost.
Okay, perfect. Sergio?
No, I will create a document for the abstract, and then we'll be in touch. I will share in Mattermost.
Yes, of course. And also, please insert the link to the agenda, to the notes section.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And see you in 2 weeks. It will be 26th of
Yes.
November, Tuesday.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much, and have a nice evening or day.
Yeah. Same to you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.